Hello and welcome to AfriDominion. My name is Freeman Thingirankawo. Thank you so much for tuning into our program today. And for those of you joining us live for the very first time, welcome. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join the conversation. Please be sure to subscribe. Those of you guys following live from the social media on our various platforms. You have X, you have YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. X, which is X Twitter, Facebook. The young people's seat. I just forgot. And also Instagram. There's another one that everybody is so into right now online. I just can't remember which one it is, guys. TikTok. Yes. I'm sorry, guys. I'm becoming old school. Yeah, so please welcome to each and every one of you guys. We are so thrilled that we can have you joining us live. And I also want to tell you that if you're joining us for the very first time, be sure to also write down our email so that we can actually follow through, especially if you do have some information or any details that you'd like to share with us further than what we have right now. And for those of you guys who do not know our main website, it's info at www.info www.afridominion.com www.afridominion.com. Apologies, guys, something is up with myself today. But if you are one of those guys who have been getting in touch with us, especially guys, we have had recently most of you who have been getting in touch with us and passing through a lot of information. If we do not respond to you right away, be patient with us, guys. We sometimes don't have enough resources to answer each and every one of you questions or emails for that matter. But nevertheless, I can promise you that we do respond to every single one of you guys who submit in or who sends an email, so that we can be able to have an exchange. And with that in mind, guys, welcome to the conversation today. For those of you guys who are still on Tuesday, welcome. Time now in our studio, it's 5:03. And we are so glad, guys, that you can join our program today. As we have told you earlier, we have said that we're going to be having this conversation. We sometimes have it earlier in the morning so that the rest of our brothers and sisters, especially those of you guys who are in Africa, so you can be able to follow. But because of various programs that we have going on, we are not always able to accommodate, guys. Nevertheless, we thank God for the technologies. We can adjust timings. We can adjust timings in different slots, and hence we're having this conversation right now. So, what do we want to talk about today, guys? The topic of today is how the U.S. government massive deportation promise of illegal immigrants affecting Africans. How is it affecting you? That's what we are going to talk about, guys. And we know that ever since we actually told you guys about this conversation a little earlier, we throw it out on the media, on the social media, and giving you guys some heads up so that those of you guys who want to get in touch with us, at least you know what we would like to discuss, what we'd like to talk about, and have you saying. We have live Zoom open right now. If for those of you guys who want to follow using Zoom, you are more than welcome. But I want to tell you upfront, guys, if you're coming in Zoom, make sure that be on your best behavior, because if it disrupts others, it won't be any good, guys. All right. So, but welcome nevertheless, and I'm so thrilled for this time and the opportunity to share with you guys. You are free to call also. I brought in our cell phone so that if you guys want to also call in real time, I will be more than happy to speak to you briefly anyway. So for those of you guys again who do not know our telephone number, if you go on the website www.afridominion.com, you'll find the number there. I have it here at the studio. So, and let us go ahead and exchange accordingly. All right. And besides that, guys, I'm so excited again, like I say, for this conversation. It is one of those sensitive conversations. I want to put it out there up front, and also I know that it is not easy. The Those of you in this situation that we are getting ready to talk about, those of you who are without papers, those of you guys who have questionable status, as it is right now, we are going to be talking about these issues. We know that these are very sensitive issues, not just on a personal side, family side, but also business side, not to mention on the government side, especially here in the United States. The Trump government is literally spearheading the initiative of deporting every single person who's considered illegal. And that's what I really want to start. There's no better spot as in at starting this whole conversation when we talk about deportation of an illegal immigrant. What exactly is an illegal immigrant? I think that will be the best way to to start the conversation. Now, today I've taken some time to write down some of the some of this information so that I am actually sharing accurate and on point information. And for those of you guys who do not know what is considered an illegal, let me actually put my notes on the screen here on my laptop so that we can be able to share. Yeah, I think I can read it from here. There we go. Okay, so what is it? What's considered illegal according to the United States? Uh, Bear with me. Let me see if I can find a bigger page, guys. Uh, okay, that's kind of small, but I think I can still read it. Okay, I think we can read it like that. All right. Okay, so guys, put me on the screen as well, so that we can be able to share in real time. Yeah, show them my screen. Okay. All right. And by the way, guys, those of you guys who are in Zoom, bear with me. Bear with me a little bit until at least we can share some of this information. And then once we share, after we share, you are more than welcome to come and and have a conversation, guys. All right. So, guys, here we go. Again, how is the United States massive deportation of illegal immigrants from Africa is affecting your family? That's the conversation that we get ready to have right now. Now, according to the United States immigration law policy and enforcement practices, the term illegal immigrant refers to non-citizens residing in the United States without legal authorization, as outlined in the Immigration and Naturalization Act and subsequent regulations. Okay, that's first and foremost what it means to what it is to be considered an illegal immigrant. And it's very necessary, guys, that we actually use we use the government definition, or use the legal definition, at least for the time being, so that those of you guys would actually understand what we are talking about, the actual conversation. Now, we also took the liberty to go through what are the categories that they're currently looking for in terms of what's the illegal categories that continuously seek attention, or they're paying attention to. First and foremost, you have what they call an entry without an inspection. If you come to the United States and you were never inspected, you are literally an illegal immigrant. Okay, so get to know that according to the United States rules and regulations, especially the Immigration and Naturalization Act, you are considered an illegal immigrant. You have a visa overstay. If you are one of those, people who have overstayed your visa, you are also considered an illegal. Um, Entering the United States without permission. That was the first one. The second is remaining in the United States beyond the expiration of your temporary visa, which is what they call a visa overstay. There are a whole lot of people who actually fall in this category of visa overstay. When you overstay for many reasons, you overstay, you are also considered illegal. The third category, it's a visa violation, engaging into activities not permitted by visa type. Example, working on a tourist visa or staying unlawfully. It's also a visa violation. Another category, it's failed asylum seeker. When you have a situation, for example, in a lot of these African war torn countries, people like for example, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Somalia, Eritreans, Ethiopians, Mozambique, a lot of these hotspot where you actually have active wars. A lot of these people, when they come to the United States, you may come under a temporary visa. Then all of a sudden you run out of use visa and you become basically, when you're seeking for asylum, I am right before your asylum is approved and you find yourself in limbo. You basically under the asylum, under the failed asylum, entering illegally or legally applying for an asylum but denied, or abandoning the claim without leaving. So in other words, if you already submitted a claim to the, to the immigration department and they haven't responded, you also fall within the illegal immigrants, guys. If you are under an expired, revoked, or parolee. So you know that some people have been admitted under humanitarian goodwill or parole. An example there is CHNV, but staying after parole expires. If you are one of these people who were brought to the United States under some sort of arrangement of under humanitarian, humanitarian goodwill, and then you overstay your visa, or for whatever reason it goes, it becomes expires, you are also considered an illegal immigrant. Those who actually are under what's considered TPS, or temporarily protected status, overstays. If under some sort of legal, some sort of legal clause, you have been allowed to stay within the United States, but then whatever time period that the enforcement was supposed to be expires, you also fall under the category of illegal immigrants. From what they say here, it's remaining after temporarily protected status expires without transitioning to another legal status or leaving the country or departing. And then we have those who, another category, considered fraudulent entry. If you are if you are under this category, you're basically using fake documents or misrepresent action to enter the United States. Especially, oftentimes they look at situation where you may have been, where you may have purchased a passport on the black market, or what they call forged passport, or when you cook your papers. You have people who are under all kinds of desperate situation that they are willing to do any and everything to get in the country. And then you also have a deportation order of non-compliance. These are the people who are falling under, or who are falling under what they call, if you have failed to, if you have failed to go back home after your visa had expired, or whatever the arrangement that actually allows you to legally stay in the United States. According to the definition here, they say those of you who may have failed to leave after receiving a final removal order from an immigration judge or ICE. So in another word, if your issue has been already in the court justice system, and then all of a sudden they force you to leave, and you, instead of leaving, and you decide to basically figure out other ways to have life, so you're also considered an illegal. Guys, we have a lot of people who are literally under limbo in the United States. Families continuously under fear of getting deported because of all these issues happening. And this is something that's affecting a whole lot of people, a whole lot of people. And I have some numbers, some staggering numbers that I would like to share with you guys. And it's kind of crazy if you look at it, or if you think about it. So according to Homeland Security, the Migration Policy Institute, but also there's another stats that we pull from the Pew Foundation. We have some scary numbers that I also want to share with you guys, but not for the purpose of making you afraid. Just some data that personally I felt that they were really terrible in terms of how they affect us as a people. So here we go, guys. Based on what the research have been saying, did you know that between 50 to 80,000 people the of Africans specifically, they came through the United States, through the border. Imagine, guys, between 50 and 80. So meaning they enter the United States without being inspected. Like they didn't show a passport or some sort of valid documentation, but they managed to go. They managed to get in, and oftentimes it may be either from Canada side or from the Mexico side, because those are the two inland places, potential places that people can actually come from. Now, this was before January 20th, meaning before the new Trump administration came to be. It was roughly between 50 to 80,000 annually. Now, after President Trump took office, the number, from according to the report, the numbers fell tremendously. 80% of it, 80%. It was like 80% reduction of those numbers, those Africans who actually entered the United States through the borders. So 80% of what, maximum of 80,000. We're talking about 60,000 of those people no longer can get through the United States. Those of you guys who are not aware, especially if you are seeking to enter the United States illegally, right now the administration uses U.S. Army, U.S. Army who have been deputized to become immigration officers. And in other words, you may see a United States military personnel on the borders. These are not just soldiers anymore. They also have been deputized to enforce immigration and immigration laws, and custom immigration and custom border patrols laws and regulations. So it is a little bit more different, because I think it is the first time personally, while in the United States, you get to see where military are not just in in the war theater, but they also actually have been deployed to guard the borders. Now, this is the kind of thing we are sort of accustomed in Africa. For example, I'll take you guys to East Africa, or actually specifically Central Africa, because the example one I gave in Rwanda, you have literally soldiers throughout the whole entire country, meaning the barracks or the military bases no longer house the military. You have this military literally mingling with the population for the past 30 years. In the United States now, you're getting soldiers getting out of the barracks, getting out of the military camps, and going to the borders. This is something new, and this is not officially, or this is not considered war times, even though through some legal paperwork it's considered war times. Whereas now the military is being dispatched on the U.S. border to curtail or to push back against this illegal immigration. Um, Secondly, the visa overstay, guys. You have so many people who overstay their visas. These are not just Africans, but I'm only focusing on African people. According again to the Department of Homeland Security, this is not the only source. You have Department of Homeland Security. You also have Migration and Policy Institute and the Pew Foundation numbers. It is said that between 80,000 to 120 people overstay visas, especially Africans. In other words, you entered legally in the United States, but your visa expired. Most of the time, the category that oftentimes falls through this category, it's students. Those of you guys who may be students or tourists, those of you under B1 or B2 visa, and when it expires, whether you're trying to transition through another status, you decide to overstay. It's quite a lot of numbers, 80 to 120 thousand people. And some of the main largest population that have been recorded or that is being recorded. You have families of people from Nigeria, people from Ghana, people from Ethiopia. There are a couple of people from Kenya. I will give you the numbers. I took some time to get some numbers as well. And now, when it comes to those who are seeking asylum, in other words, you came here legally um, or illegally, meaning you may have potentially came through the border and made it through, or you came under a valid visa, you overstay, and then you changing status, or you've already filed the minute you arrived here, you declared yourself as an asylee, or you filed for asylum. So you have between 20 to 40,000 people who are literally in the limbo of asylum, sort of like pending clause. And these are Africans who cross illegally or request asylum at port, awaiting legal outcomes without lawful status yet. I stand corrected. So, according to the definition, an asylum applicant are mainly those who crossed illegally in the United States or requested asylum as soon as they arrived to any one of the port of entry in the United States, and they're waiting for the outcomes. But also, we have known cases where you may have a valid visa and then you file for an asylum, but at that time, when your visa it's still good, if it expires, you are you are visa overstay. You are also in danger of of having issues with the government. Um, what other numbers do I have? The parolees. The parolees are those who have expired visas and so on. If you were under some sort of if you were admitted under some sort of humanitarian parolee, currently we have between 5 to 15,000 people under the this category of parolees. This is a tricky one, guys, because oftentimes, from what we have been hearing, uh, under this sort of arrangement, it is very difficult for you. Basically, it's not the best way to be in the United States because you are constantly under duress that you might be pushed out, that you might be kicked out of the country. And then you also have these temporarily protected status people. These are Africans who remain after their temporarily protected status had expired, or they have not been able to renew their papers for whatever reason or the other, or they are still in transitioning through one status to from one status to another. This is only between 5 to 10,000 people, according to the numbers that I'm reading here. It may not be as much, but it is still a family people. Oftentimes, you have this category falls under like the Somalians, the Sudanese, Somalis, Sudanese, a little bit of Eritreans, the people who actually have been in almost never-ending wars. And also, recently, the Democratic Republic of the Congo have also been, we've been seeing, fewer more people coming through under refugee status. And oftentimes also, you may be able to get away with being in the country through other means or other, when you can prove the duress, the fear of where you just came from, there's a chances that you get some help out of here. There is another category they call gotaways or gotaways, and these are people who literally and successfully got through the borders, had no visa, had no papers. They just were able to come through. To come through. They oftentimes, officially, they usually say that these are people who evade border patrol entirely, entering without detection and record. Uh, the majority of those people oftentimes are helped with a lot of these smugglers. There are smuggler operations that specialize in bringing people to, through various countries, including the United States, illegally. You pay a lot of money, but the risks are also extremely high. When you have, for whatever reason, when you get caught, man, you are in a straight out jam. And the majority of the time, also, it becomes really difficult for you to come legally afterwards. And there's an estimated between 10 to 20,000 of those people who are, who are called gotaways. And the total unauthorized Africans who managed to come to the United States is between 175,000 to 280,000. This is an estimation, by the way, because they really do not know for sure how many of those people. Because after all, when you don't have any regular papers, most of the time you do your very best to hide. You do your very best to to keep everything under download so that you are not caught. Now, we all know that it is difficult to live life like this. Nevertheless, when you got things happening in your life, when life is happening. We call it when life is lifing. You do what you have to do, but at the same time, you also have to remember that when you choose when you choose a life like that, there is always consequences that comes along with that, guys. And unfortunately, I guess between a hard rock in the wall, sometimes you do what you have to do, and understandably, but it is still considered illegal. Bottom line, guys. And the Trump administration is not joking, yo. It is not joking. I was listening to the National Public Radio a few days ago. There is a huge fight, guys. There's a huge fight of planes being plane deporting a lot of these bad people. Oh, by the way, I almost forgotten. So it is not a crime. I mean, it's not criminal. There is what we call here a misdemeanor. It's like when you commit a misdemeanor crime versus a full-fledged criminal. You know, Overstaying your visa. It's what's considered a misdemeanor. So meaning basically, even though it still is a crime, but it is not like someone like if you killed somebody. So and that's also something that actually is a big deal, because right now when like right now the Trump administration is deporting all criminals, meaning if you have offended, if you have broken like criminal laws in the United States, you are considered a criminal. But if you overstay your visa a week, a month, or whatever time, it's a misdemeanor. It is still a crime, but not to the degree, not the same category of crimes as someone who actually does a really crazy, like criminals and stuff. And that's another one of the biggest differentiators of how you are considered. Now, we want to say also that there've been instances where if you shoplift, for example, or if you commit these petty crimes, you may easily find yourself deported. Literally, you may easily find yourself deported. There is literally very little patience right now in deporting people. If you find yourself misbehaving in the United States right now, you are literally going to be deported. And we also have been hearing, the issues of due process. In other words, there are those people who are getting deported quickly, like this, with little due processes, simply because they fall under very specific categories where the administration they just want you to be gone. Now, I also took some liberty to find some numbers of people. This, by the way, again, this is an estimated numbers based on countries. The top 10 countries, the top 10 African countries where you have a lot of people who fall under this, so they called illegal immigrants. You have Nigeria. Nigeria tops the list. There's an estimated 50 to 70,000 people who are considered illegal immigrants. These are largely a group who have overstayed their visas. Oftentimes they could be students or tourists. According to the Migration and Policy Institute census or report from 2019, Ethiopians, you have between 20 to 30,000 Ethiopians, and this is an estimation, by the way. Also, these, they include the asylees from what we are saying. the visa overstays, and those others who find themselves in the limbo. Next, you have the Ghanaians, between 15 to 20,000, an estimated 15 to 20,000 people. Same thing, visa overstay, and then in border entries noted uh, from 2021. Okay, according to the 2000, between 2021 and 2023, between 15 and 20,000, between 15 and 25,000 approximately of Ghanaians are here in the United States illegally. And then you've got the Somalis, the Somalians, people from Somalia, an estimated 10 to 20,000. Oftentimes, these may be refugees, those who overstayed their visas, and also those who are in limbo, meaning you may have some immigration, uh, you may have some immigration case going on after you've expired you stay, and they put you basically in a limbo while you fight for your case, basically. And then next you have the Kenyans, between 10 to 15,000, approximately. These are also visa overstay permanently. And there is a smaller group that commit other little crimes and stuff, but the majority are visa overstay. Then next you have the South Africans, between 5 to 10,000 people. I actually didn't know that South Africans are not that, they're not that many who overstay their visas or who are here in the United States illegally. And this includes um, Africans post 2025 Trump refugees order. And the majority of the time, the South Africans are not that many. They always go back home. And then you have the Eritreans, like I was saying. Right now in Eritrea, they have Ethiopia and Eritrea. They've been having civil wars. In fact, nasty civil wars. So between 5 to 10,000, or approximation 5 to 10,000 people, stay here in the United States illegally. Oftentimes under the asylum cases, or they trying to get themselves heard so that they can adjust they basically they visa stays. You have a few students who may have overstayed, but the majority of them they usually overstay their visa in the process of actually asking for an asylum. And next you have the Cameroonians, between 5,000 to 10,000. And these are the Anglophone. In Cameroon, we have the French side and then the English side. So a lot of speaking Cameroonians, they also come. They usually come here, and most of them, the majority, from what they say, they overstayed their visas, um, and that also pushes. Actually, it has been pushing for the majority of Africans not to be admitted in the United States. Guys, there is a side note that I want to discuss. I have been looking through, literally, I've been checking out. Even you guys fact check me. Africa as a continent, it seems to me that it has been getting discriminated against, because only Africa cannot Africans and just a few countries cannot come to the United States easily. Meaning there is no some sort of reciprocal visa where you can easily come to the United States for 30 days, 60 days, etc. Only European countries, Asian countries. I have a list of those countries. Literally, there's not one single African country that has a reciprocal free visa entry to the United States, which is pretty sad. And when I look at this and look at how much Africa is utilized for resources, you would think that Africans will be able to come to the United States, to Europe easily, but no, not at all. It is very difficult for any single one of the African countries to have a visa to come to the United States or to go to Europe. It is very difficult. You have this visa reciprocation with other countries. Asians, for example, they have there are a few countries in Asia where you can go there without needing a visa, or you can get a visa as you arrive. Places like Malaysia. I would do a presentation with that, guys. There are a few countries where you can like freely go back and forth. Hong Kong is another one of those countries in Asia. But you also have the Caribbeans. The Caribbeans and Africans, they really have very reciprocal visa, meaning you can actually go and stay there for 30, 60, 90 days, and some of them up to 6 months, without having to file for his visa. Guys, in 2025, especially given how given how Africa is an asset to the global community, wouldn't it make sense that Africans aren't discriminated against when it comes to the entry to countries like the United States, countries like the United Kingdoms, countries like France, Germany, China, Russia, etc.? So why is it that Africans find it so hard to go through? Yet Africans, they have open arms to these countries when they actually want to come to African nations. I found this bizarre, but I also found it kind of disrespectful because, in other words, you are so desperate for an American, uh, for a United States citizen to come through, while they don't really care whether you come in or not. You are so desperate for a UK citizen to come to your country when they are not so enthusiastic about you coming to visit them. Same thing goes to the French, the Russians, the Chinese, etc. So it's kind of funny, guys, when you think about it. It's like you have your doors open, your open arms policy, but they're like, hell no, you're not just gonna get in. We wanna check to make sure you're not a criminal, you're not this and you're not that. It's kind of a iffy, guys. And I dream of a day that Africans will be able, one, to really hold it down together, meaning that for every citizen of the earth who wants to come to Africa, especially from countries that have no reciprocal visa whatsoever to African nations, that you could actually be put on the same scale, on the same consideration. Guys, it is literally difficult for you to come to the United States as an African. Period. It's even more difficult for you to dream to come to the United States when you're not married. I mean, there is literally like a hierarchy of categories where you're more likely to come or you're more likely to get a hell no, you're not coming. Like a young person in your teens and 20, it's almost a hell no, you're not just gonna come. If you don't have very connected parents, if you're not connected to the government in one way or the other, if you're not very wealthy, you're not coming. Now, if you're wealthy, right now the Trump administrations, they have a, if you can afford $5,000, no, no, not 5,000, 5 million, I stand corrected. If you have $5 million in your bank account, you can come in the United States legally, guys. They would allow you to come in here. You can get some paperwork. So, you can get a visa for $5 million. But then again, how many of you Africans have $5 million in your bank account who are not already have have the United States visa? It's very few of you guys. If you are a millionaire in dollars as an African, you already have access to the United States. You easily have access to the United States. We're talking about ordinary families who are not connected, who are not known in any way. Why is it that you cannot have the opportunity to come and see the United States? And just get to see it. Imagine like a grandmother who's like 60, 70, 80 years old wants to come and see the United States. She doesn't even speak maybe English, but she still would like to see the United States. She still would like to see UK, France, China, and so on. So long as she's able to go there, why can't we just be human beings, guys, and allow people to see the world? After all, none of us will take the world with him when we depart this world. The earth belongs to every single one of us. But for some strange reason, we make it so difficult for families to migrate back and forth. And I understand that because of natural resources and resources from within different countries. But guys, there will be a time when Africa have it together, all that is services to the world, when Africans learn how to actually keep it within Africa, and they shut off the boundaries the same way Africans are literally discriminated against. It's gonna be a game changer. And this time is coming, by the way. It won't be very far. And it will be really I would love to see what that's going to look like when non-Africans have to get visa to come to the to the United States of Africa. I dream of that day, what that's going to look like. Because guys, let's face it, it's pretty bad when when you in good faith, when you want to come to the States or any one of these Western nations, yet they singled you out because you're not poor, you don't have any money, you cannot afford to maybe stick around for few for few months, and they automatically just reject you because they cannot trust that you're not going to overstay your visa. And I understand also at the same time. But guys, we are human beings at the end of the day. We are human beings, guys. Life happens. Life happens to all of us. Are there ways that Africans can be less less discriminated against? And so earlier, I want to get on to. I had told you guys that how is this affecting you guys? How is this visa? How is this massive deportation promise affecting you, your friends, your family, your coworkers? This is really actually this is one of the biggest reason why today I wanted to talk about this, guys. When you go on social medias, when you speak with few people at a bar, or in these gatherings, people are afraid, including Africans. They literally today, the impact can be seen. It can be seen. I'll go ahead and give you guys a few of them. On an individual basis, people have anxiety now. You will see that people who don't have any papers, legal papers, they will rarely go in the opens, or they will gently find themselves in sketchy places. They don't want to be seen somewhere the police or law enforcement hang out, because they're afraid that anything that may trigger the police to ask for your ID and ask for your studies, you may end up being taken to ICE custody. Like, families don't hang out anymore. Consequently, if you are undocumented, or if you are out of visa or illegal immigrant, quote unquote, if you are looking for work under tables, you're definitely not gonna do that. Guys, let's face it, real talk. If you're in the United States and you don't have a job and you're not a rich person, you're going to have to go figure out where to find money, figure out where to find food. So you will work on the table. That's just the that's just the reality. Period. So for those people who work under the table, they are the most vulnerable people. There are a whole lot of them, guys. There are a whole lot of them. For various reasons, you may find yourself, illegally staying in the United States, and then you're not ready to go to your respective countries because you got bills to pay, because you have a roof you may want to stay at. It is in your best interest to find some work. When you get caught, it's a misdemeanor, first and foremost, and then you are subject to deportation. Now, if you're already struggling, oftentimes you cannot afford a lawyer, at which point they probably are going to deport you. Now, there's also like an impact it's having towards family, guys. Can you imagine the emotional distress the families are going through today? Emotional distress. When you're already worried as to what's going to happen to you, you're not gonna think straight. You're constantly gonna be jumpy. If you have children, you may find yourself actually like behaving a little funny with your family, like constantly agitated, not knowing what to do, how to do it, uh, fearful, constant fear, looking like you're some sort of like a thief, a burglar. They have behaviors that can easily show you how it's affecting you, and of course, financially is going to affect you. If you're no longer working because you're afraid that ICE is gonna grab you on the street or from your job, you're probably gonna start hiding. And when you hide and get out, and get out from that decent job that you have, you're probably gonna be dealing now with people who pay you on the table on a fraction of what you were already getting paid. As illegal as it could be, you still gotta eat. They even say, a thief, if you get caught stealing food, you get that whooping, and plus you pay what, sevenfolds of what you have stolen. But it's not a crime, guys. It is not a crime. It is not a crime to. It's not criminal. Let me be technical here, because I know some of you guys may be saying like, "Hey, Freeman say it's not a crime to be an illegal." No, it still is a misdemeanor, but it's not criminal. That's what I'm trying to say here. If I may be technical. Um, the impact it does towards your friends. Let's say that I didn't have papers right now. You may invite me for coffee. You may invite me to hang out at your place. And I might lie to you. I might be like, hey, I'm actually going to be working, all because I'm afraid that if something were to erupt at your spot, you know, I may be I may be vulnerable. I may be vulnerable to being apprehended by ICE. Let's say, for example, you see how sometimes around my mouth, you may actually literally disappear, meaning you're now going to be as engaged as someone who feel like, hey, I can actually contribute to the everyday life, because you're not quite sure whether if you sneeze the wrong way, if you use a wrong word, that ICE is gonna bang 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 on your door, and before you know it, you get deported. There are many reasons, guys, like First Amendment speech. Right now, if you have no papers and you speak your mind, you can easily find ICE deporting you guys. Literally, there are some examples recently, that we heard on the radio, about actually someone who had the legal status in the United States. I think he was a permanent resident. Recently, just got deported. If you listen to NPR, you get the story. Very interesting, guys. Very interesting. Um, and you can see that this really impacts our daily lives, guys. It literally impacts our daily lives. Imagine if your coworkers at a business, they relied on you, but they never knew you were illegal because you may be using forged documents. All of a sudden, you start calling out sick, and they have no idea that you are really evading ICE, but you keep on calling out sick. It is going to impact the workplace. It may even get to the point where they may be thinking of firing you because they don't really know what's going on with you. And I'm pretty sure you are not going to share that you have some immigration issues, because the majority of businesses, when they know that you have immigration issues, they're not going to hire you. Chances are you may have forged papers, which is why you got work, or you're working under the tables. And there are very few companies that would let you work when they find the status of your situation. And I believe, actually, is it I-9? I think they have an electronic way to actually check your status right away, the employment status. And in other words, you can fake it when when you provide your real names. They can tell whether you are legally in the country or illegally. Guys, all these things are affecting us in our lives, our families. Can you just imagine a family that gets separated because you may have fathered children and you are illegal and your children are the United States citizens? By the way, the Trump administration is trying to get rid of that. Whereas they say that if you are born in the United States soil from the parents who have no status, they want to ensure they basically want to call you illegal as well, because first and foremost, a United States citizen is one who was born or naturalized. So under those who are born on the United States terrain or territory, there are also stipulations right now that the Trump administration is actually putting forth, so that now it becomes a little bit more stringent and focused. So in other words, if your parents are illegal, there is a pretty good chances that your citizenship by birth may be challenged. So that's something also you have to think about it, or you have to consider. Guys, all of this, they bring anxiety to families, because if your husband doesn't have papers, or if your spouse doesn't have papers, you may continuously be under fear that one of you guys is going to be separated from each other. Imagine you are a mother and you're nursing, and you are out of status. You may find ICE deporting you and your child, or situation where ICE may be deporting you and leaving the child to the father or the mother. Guys, some of the most unfortunate situation taking place. And on one side, you may call it heartless, but on the other side, they say, hey, we really don't have any mercy for you. You came in this country illegally. Why didn't you wait just like everybody else? And that's usually one of the one of the iffy questions or situation. On one side, there are those who actually follow the letter of the law and they entered the United States legally. But then on the other side, for whatever reason, you came illegally. But of course, every case differs. People are different. They have many reasons why they come to the United States, but it is still difficult, guys. It is still difficult, and it actually impacts so many lives. So, and I know that we have had a few instances where we had testimonies of people who actually eventually self-deported. Oh, by the way, the Trump administrations are encouraging people to self-deport. There is an app that they say, the Border and Protection Services, where you can register and you self-deport. I don't know yet how many people have already volunteered to leave the United States, but eventually they're hoping that more people may self-deport so that you have an opportunity to come in the United States later. Now, also you should know that if you are in this situation as they are, there's a likelihood there's a likelihood that it'll be very difficult for you to come back in the country. That's just straight out talk. If ICE has a dossier on you being in the United States illegally, you can best believe your chances of coming back are going to be slim already. Already, they are going to be slim. So you will not be as considered just like someone who may have a spotless record. You know what I mean? So be mindful of those things as well, guys. And there's so much publicity about people who come to the United States, to Canada, to UK, or let's say people come in the West generally. So you have a lot of publicity. The best way, the best life ever, things like that. You get to have the quality of your life improves. Now, I want to ask you guys, why can we not improve our African ways of lives so that we didn't have to flee, so that we didn't have to get away from our homelands? Do you know how much it takes for someone who had it all to lose it all because of a war, to lose it all because of some political fights, to lose it all because of instability, in the country where you are physically being threatened, or your family is physically being threatened? Africa is having all the above impediments that actually force people to get out of their comfort zone, force people to get out of their nations, their countries. Why can we not actually deal with the reasons why Africans are fleeing their countries collectively and start cleaning one nation at a time, guys? That's my desire, that we actually deal with the reasons why Africans are continuously fleeing their country. I will submit to you guys. I will submit to you that had it not been wars, killings, and a lot of these unfairness taking place in Africa, there's not a single person in their right mind who will want to leave their homeland in Africa, period. Especially knowing what I know today. And showing and teaching an average African just a comparison chart of Africa and the West, of Africa and Asia, a whole lot of people would not actually leave if properly educated. And I think that we may have to consider educating more and more and more our families, our communities, of what it's like to live in the Western world, what it's like to live in Asia, what it's like to live outside of your comfort zone as an African. Because when you get to understand the difficulties that that you are going to have to go through, the hoops and loops that you have to jump, the majority of you will actually not go anywhere. I dream of the day where Africans are going to be given free entry to any land on planet Earth. That day will be the most amazing day. But I also long to see the day when Africans will be able to live from Somalia all the way to Senegal, and coming from Egypt all the way to South Africa, visa free, with no passports whatsoever. The same way I can take off from Washington, D.C. and go to LA in California with visa free. I don't need a visa to go to California. I don't need a visa to go to New York. I don't need a visa to go to Washington States. Heck, I don't need a visa to go to Canada. I just gotta show a passport that shows that I have United States citizenship. And guys, it is kind of crazy because I don't understand why that solidarity, that unity cannot be attained easily as Africans. But I also not a child. I know that it's difficult, especially some countries. They are very keen. They are very uptight about loosening up their boundaries for the reasons that I talked about a few days back. Scarcity, issues of losing the age because others may come and take it. Almost some of these issues are fabricated issues, are superficial issues. Guys, I gave you an example that out of the 50 states in the United States, I have only visited a handful of those countries. We call them states here. I have only visited a few of those states. Not that I don't have a visa to go there, not that I cannot go there, but simply I'm just busy. I'm not that enthusiastic about visiting every single one of these states. I just don't have the time for the moment. You know what I mean? The same is true also. The same will be true to a lot of Africans also. If Africa is open, just like the whole entire United States, unless you have the means to travel from point A to point B, not only will be responsible, but it just won't be feasible for you to just pick life and go. Now, there are the exception to the rule, the few of you who are able to do it, but the average person will not leave the comfort zone and go in a jungle where they know little to no life of what is happening there. So I wish that politicians could actually acknowledge the fact that it is not so much of the boundaries that are keeping people from leaving. These are just the outdated policies. We are being trained to behave like prisoners, open prisons. These boundaries, they serve as open prisons to Africans. Passports serve as a means of reminding you the borders from where you can actually claim rights. Passports are the most discriminative documents that humankind have today. There is a certain passport, if you are that particular passport holder, you get hated, period. You could be the nicest person, but just because you're holding that passport, you would not be able to go anywhere. And that's discrimination, guys. If you hold African passport, you get discriminated against. Bottom line. They may not call it discrimination, but we know it's discrimination. And that's why We have to improve the quality of our lives as Africans, so that the need for you to go to Europe, the need for you to go to the United States, the need to go outside of Africa can be mitigated by meeting all the reasons why people want to leave Africa. I will submit to you guys, if you have something to do and it's giving you access to food, to money, to quality of health that you wish to have, you won't have any need for you to leave your homeland. So why not get busy doing just that, where we can actually create work for ourselves, create opportunities, get rid of the guns, get rid of these walls, so that people don't have any reason to leave their homelands. People don't have any reason to leave the real estates. It is because of what is happening right now that's forcing Africans to want to leave. We also have propagandas. We have nation propaganda from across the planet, whereas they actually seeking the best talent. The best African talent makes it all the way to these countries. As long as you have a gift that is ready to be served, you can get a passport overnight. You can get a free visa, guys. I kid you guys not. You guys remember that kid who invented windmill from Zimbabwe? That kid didn't have to hustle for a visa. That kid is right now is here in the United States legally with paperwork. Why? Because his gift is ready. His gift is being utilized. And that on one side is good, but on the other side, how long are we going to allow brain drain, African brain drain being taken outside of Africa? Imagine you literally work so hard to nurture your child until that child grows, until that child has a visible gift, and then bam, another country comes and snatch your kid. How does that make you feel? But also, I would want to put it out there that if the people do not realize that you have a gift and you struggle throughout your upbringing, then they have no business claiming you when they realize that you have a gift. Because we're supposed to be good to each other in good times and in bad times. If I'm poor, hungry, and I've got a gift that's ready to be served, and the minute you realize that I have a gift, then all of a sudden you come towards me, you come to my rescue. I don't want nothing to do with you guys. And unfortunately, you have people who find themselves in those predicaments. So let that not be you who has been showing you gifts and nobody recognizes, or you get ignored until someone else until another nation realize how special that you are. Guys, we are all special. We are all special. But it is up to you at the end of the day to really show that your gift is ready. Guys, your gift is your passport. Bottom line. Listen to what I say. If you forget everything else that I say, remember that your gift is your passport. That's literally an ancient proverb. It works everywhere. If you get a gift, doors will be open based on the needs, the market needs of your gift. You not only the doors will be open to you, but you are going to be compensated accordingly as well. So get ready for that, guys. Get ready. And I want to encourage, especially you young people, please work hard on your gifts. Work hard on your gifts. Polish your gifts. Become important. Become helpful. Become useful. That they're not going to be able to refuse you. If you're very helpful, if you're very resourceful, not a single country will not want you to be in their own country. Because right now, anybody who's helpful, anybody who's resourceful is wanted, is gold at marketplace. So if you work on you and sharpen your strength, your skill set, sharpen your gifts. I kid you not, if you want visa in the United States, you will get it. If you want visa in the UK, in Canada, in France, any one of these countries, you are going to get it. But I will submit to you, why not demand your worth in Africa so that you can actually help rise Africa. That's my desire, guys. I desire that we get rid of these guns, we get rid of these walls. I desire that we get rid of this corruption so that we can actually work for Mother Africa, work for our own communities. Literally, get rid of this whole deportation, man. Get rid of these separations of families. It's so old. It is so heartbreaking when you see families being separated. But understandably, you break the law, you kind of suck, you suffer the consequences. That's just the nature of the beast on planet Earth. So, guys, that's it. That's it that I have for you today. Um, for those of you guys who are just following later on in the presentation, I had asked, I had asked, I had asked the audience um, the impact, the massive deportation promise from the United States government. What impact is it doing in your life? How is it affecting you, your family, your friends, whether you are illegal or not? That's besides the point. Is how is it affecting you individually? How is it affecting you as a family? How is it affecting you and your friends? How is it affecting you as a community? How does it affect you at workplace? These are critical things that literally affect our everyday life. We know that it affects us very much. Now, the degree by which it affects us varies depending on everybody's case. But it's my desire that we figure out a way to mitigate this immigration crisis. Africans, if we get rid of these walls, we won't have the need to leave Africa. Oftentimes, a lot of these migration, the one of the biggest reason that people want to leave by any means necessary is these never-ending wars. After wars, you have opportunities. The lack of opportunities, it causes people to do all kinds of crazy things, including entering and exiting countries illegally. Guys, let's be the one creating our own opportunities. You can create opportunity if you have already a gift ready to be served. There will never be a day when your gift is ready to be served that you are not going to find opportunity in any country on planet Earth. Because I've never seen a government, I've never seen a company, I've never seen organization that ignore someone with a gift. I have never seen a single one of them. If you look the United States fabric, the United States is made up by people from all across the globe. The originator United States people or the originator Native Americans are very few. Everybody else is an immigrant from one country to another. Everybody is sort of like a descendant of an immigrant. This is how the United States is formed. And because of the premise of that premise, sometimes it's also laughable how it's being enforced, knowingly that it's an immigrant country. The United States is as strong as it is because of immigrants, because of brain, the brain capacity, what do you call it? You have people who are smart, who came from all across the planet, who become US citizens, and they actually contribute to the economy. They contribute to the strength of the United States. Without these people, the United States would not be as strong, which is why African government, they should have policies where, for example, if you pay for a child to come to the United States or any one of these nations, you also do some sort of binding agreement that that person is going to have to serve the country, especially if you come using government taxpayer dollars. You got to at least give back to the community X amount of years. Here in the United States, they have a program like that. I think they call it AmeriCorps, whereas you do public service for X amount of time, in the exchange for like your student loans and things like that. If you go to, oh, the soon to be destroyed Department of Education in the United States, the Federal Department of Education, you will find those programs. I wonder if they're going to be there still. Nevertheless, guys, that's what I had for you guys today. I know that this is one of those sensitive conversation to have when the government promises to deport people, family or not. You find people actually missing in action in in so many places. You can see it amongst Africans. Few of them are going in churches. Few of them are going to stores. Few of them go outside to play with children, unlike before, because they're afraid that at any given time, ICE may be taking pictures. You may have a neighbor who may snitch, who may snitch at you. There are many reasons why now families are taking it easy, not trying to expose themselves or to expose their loved ones. And understandable. I can literally appreciate and understand because if my mom or my dad is illegal, for example, and I know they are the breadwinner, I'm gonna do everything possible not to be in jeopardy. Which is why it's really bringing stress to these families. Imagine if a father is illegal or out of status, uh, have a U.S. citizen child. Who's better to keep that child than the biological father? But did you know that ICE or the Immigration Custom Enforcement Agency can come and separate your child from the parent, and that child ends up in a foster care? There are instances where you have a lot of children who have been separated from their parents, and they end up in foster care. And you know what happened in foster care. There is a likelihood that in that foster care, in that in those in those cares, uh, your life changes. In foster cares, oftentimes life of that orphans changes, and that's something that actually immediately affects you and affects generations and generations of families. So to you Africans, I really want to encourage you. If you have if you have papers, issues with your paperworks, do your very best, man, to have you to put your things in order, put all your affairs in orders. And it's difficult, guys. I know how difficult it is, but and I know sometimes it is hard to understand why someone may choose to decide to leave the way a lot of these families choose to leave. But living under duress, it is equally difficult as well. When you're constantly under fear that you might be deported, that ICE may find you, may harm your family, you may end up being in a jail and then deported later. There's so many things that are literally freaking a lot of these families. I hope that we could figure out a way to distress a lot of these families, because at the end of the day, man, everybody wants to live a life worthy living with no fear to be arrested, with no fear to find yourself deported, separated from your families, separated from your babies, separated from your spouse. Nobody wants that situation. So how can we do it better? How can we ensure the families are not separated? How can we ensure that your economic desires still can be met without you being in an environment that's a bit less hospitable? I think we have a duty today as a collective to figure out a way to help each other, to help one another. Which is why I would like to tell you guys that those of you guys who may be in the limbo, maybe in those predicament, um, get in touch with us. We have some immigration lawyers we may refer you to, so that they can potentially help you get some help. There are lawyers who work for, who work pro bono, and there are those other lawyers also who work with little pay. There are a lot of ways that, a lot of immigrations brothers and sisters are helping us. They're helping out others. If you're one of those people, please get in touch with us through our email, info@afridominion.com, and we will connect you, and we will definitely connect you. And we also recognize that every situation is unique and is different. By the way, complete privacy, and very confidential. In other words, we are now going to out you out that you have a nice issues. Come on now, we're not going to do that. We will refer you to a lawyer or some legal ways to get some help if you do happen to reach out to us. And hopefully they can actually help you take care of your situation. It is our desire that we do the very best that we can. We do the very best that we can to not see families being separated, to not see children losing their father, their mothers, to not see children becoming parents because the legal guardians of parents are no longer there. Guys, these are very sensitive times that we are living in. But above all, these are times that can be very destructive towards families. So let's do all that we can to mitigate, but also to minimize the impact, negative impact that this promise of massive deportation may have towards our family. All right. So if you have any question, I can read a few questions and then we can go. By the way, we have Zoom open. For those of you guys who wanted to say something in real time, so you are more than happy. You are more than welcome to say something, and then we can just finish the program that we have. So let me read a few questions here. I noticed that you have sent in a couple of questions here. Someone is asking, interesting, how many illegal Africans are there in 2025 total? I think I may have actually talked about that earlier. There's an estimate of between 170,000 to 280. Now, however, there are other reports that says that the total African illegals in the United States, they may be close to 600K, but in 2025 only is between 170K to 280, 290. That still is a lot of people, guys. But it is nowhere near how many millions, between 11 to 13 millions illegal immigrants total in the United States. So in other words, according to a lot of these researchers and census, African illegal immigrants, they make up between 5 to 11 to 12% of total illegal immigrants that makes it to the United States. And that's a lot. That's very little. But I won't be shocked though, because Africa has been also closed. Like I told you before, Africans cannot easily find a visa that come to the United States or Europe. Is not easy, and therefore those who use or those who choose to go other ways to come to the United States oftentimes are in deep trouble. Oftentimes are literally going in the most perilous ways. The majority of them don't make it. But imagine if you get smuggled and something happens to you, you basically waive your right. Oftentimes they don't even have such thing as having a right. It's almost like do it at your own risk. This guy says here, I know of a family who are in this situation. The husband has been barricading himself at home We see, of course, we see them, but he's usually at a balcony. He no longer goes outside, no longer hangs out, get some fresh air. He's usually at the balcony by the apartment. Yeah, I've seen feedbacks like these ones, where parents are not taking their children to school in some areas. Parents may be afraid to go buy some groceries. They may start sending their own children who either have the legal status or are under darker protection. So there are a lot of disruptions, guys. There's so much disruptions taking place consequently of this massive deportation promise from the Trump's administrations to all illegals, including Africans, and it's kind of crazy because he literally changes the lives of so many people. Um, mm. Let's see here another questions. The Ethiopians. Okay, somebody's asking how many illegal Ethiopians are there in the United States right now. I think I may have also read this earlier. So, according to the estimated numbers, in 2025, between 20 to 30 Ethiopians. Let me make sure if my memory serves me correct. Mhm. Guys, these things are very scary. They're very scary for sure. Ethiopians, yep, between 20,000, between 20 and 30,000. By the way, as I said earlier, these numbers are an estimate. This is an estimated numbers. It's not. These are not concrete numbers. Neither the Department of Homeland Security in the United States is aware fully how many people are illegal. They just don't have the numbers. Through a lot of different ways of census and collecting information, uh, they get to have an estimation as far as people whom they think are illegal within the United States. And let's face it, if you are completely undocumented and you haven't been undocumented and you've been undocumented for so many years, you have figured out, you've already have mastered the way to hide around the system. Real talk, you know what I mean? And you keep a life like that until you run out of your luck. But eventually, at some point, that also has to change. Now, my question to you guys: do you know of a person in this predicament? Um, would it be okay for you to help? Guys, I have a few minutes if you'd like to jump on Zoom and have a saying, or if you have something to say on X specifically, I have my X account open. You can share with us if you'd like to be a guest and have something to say about this. You're more than welcome. But we know that this is one of those sensitive topic to discuss. Why? Because oftentimes people feel like there will be retribution. People feel like someone may snitch at them or on them. There's so much fear, guys, when it comes to immigration. A lot of families are afraid right now of being separated. Children are afraid of losing their parents, their guardians. So it's understandable, guys, which is why I say that this is one of those most sensitive topic to discuss. Nevertheless, guys, we still have to talk. We still have to talk about it. I want you to understand, guys. I said this earlier, and I will repeat it to those of you guys who are not aware of it. There's a huge difference between I will probably say a distinction between what's called a okay, let's for legally call it unauthorized. Remember earlier I read you guys the definition of what's called an illegal immigrant. I can actually go back at it so that you guys can read it. I can read it verbatim if I can go back to that page. Um, because I think it's important that for those of you guys who are afraid, stop being afraid. Stop being afraid. Not everything merits you being fearful. You know what I mean? So, according to the definition, guys, I've read it for you guys. Let's see here. Where are you? Where are you? Guys, is there a way to make this thing bigger so so that I could see it? Yeah, I'm struggling to see the whole page. Yeah, I want to read you guys the definition again. For those of you guys who may have missed it, under the United States Immigration and Natural Immigration um, Nationality Act, um, what's called what is considered an illegal, okay, or unauthorized immigrant in the United States uh, is basically under the United States immigration law policy and enforcement practices. The term illegal immigrant refers to non-citizen residing in the United States without legal authorization as outlined by the Immigration and Nationality Act and subsequent regulation. And for those of you guys who didn't get to see the presentation, who came a little bit later, uh, it's an offense, but it's not criminal. Do you understand? And earlier, I think I may have also showed you guys the difference between the two. When you commit a crime versus a misdemeanor, let me see if I can find you the let me see if I can I can find the definition here and read that for you guys, because I think it's important that we get to share some of this relevant information, because most of the time you have some of you guys in this predicament who are afraid already. You don't know what to do with yourself. You are stuck in the house, and you are afraid. You are literally afraid that at any given time ICE or somebody else may come and put you to jail. So I want you to see right here where it says what is the difference between unauthorized versus criminal? Not all illegal immigrants commit crimes beyond immigration violation. Entry without inspection is a misdemeanor, meaning if you came to the United States without legally coming through any one of these port that receives people, you're committing a misdemeanor. A misdemeanor is not an offense that makes you become a criminal. You guys, I hope you guys understand what that is. So as you can see here, overstaying isn't a crime, but it's a civil violation. Basically, you are in violation with civil, a civil regulation code of the United States, but you are now considered a criminal. Now, it was funny because the other day I was hearing there is a language within the White House where they say all of you guys are criminals. If you overstay, you've committed a crime. But I guess it's a technical jargon. It's truly a crime versus a misdemeanor. I guess in a court of law makes a difference. And this is where you guys need to actually note some of these technical jargons, especially if you have a family member or a loved one who is in this predicament. Guys, don't just be jumpy all the time. If you are in this situation, remember that just because you out of status doesn't mean that ICE is gonna come and pick you up and put you to jail with no with no cause, with no due processes. Even though there've been cases where people have been deported in South America overnight, and these are specifically those who have fallen in the category they call criminals. If you were already in jail for committing a crime and you are not a United States citizen nor a permanent resident, there is a pretty good chances that you already had a free flight to your country. And by the way, the so-called free flights are not free. When you arrive to whatever respective country that you gotta go through, they have ways to recuperate that money. So that flight is not free. And also something new that came out. The White House is actually asking people is asking people to self deport, so that you may have an opportunity later on in life to perhaps come back to the United States. And so that's something that some people are also looking to do. Depending on your case, again, you may consider talking to a lawyer, an immigration lawyer, for those of you guys who are going through this situation. But we know that this is one of the most stressful times of Africans right now within the United States, because for many various reasons you could easily be picked and deported. There is little process right now. If you're not connected, if you don't have the means, you could easily find yourself in the cracks of the system and being chased out right away. So the best thing for those of you guys who have overstayed your visas, who don't have any criminal history, be on your best behavior. Do the very best that you can. Have plan B. Have plan B just in case ICE finds you, and be ready to find alternative stay. As bad as it sounds, guys, as bad as it sounds, I keep on telling you guys, remember your gifts. Your gifts will open doors everywhere on planet Earth. If you know you got a gift, if you know that you are useful and you don't have papers, there's a pretty good chance that someone is going to take a chance on you, help you find papers. So find your likes everywhere. If your native country is not one of the alternatives on your table, look the potential to go through other countries. But at the same time, I always say, do your very best not to be separated from your babies. Guys, children in foster care, most of the time they get to have the worst kind of trauma that stays with them for the whole entire lifetime. Imagine you bring your kids, your children to the United States, and you overstay your visa, or for whatever reason, you fall out of status and you find yourself in ICE detention. Your children have no adults to look after them, and the government is forced to send them to foster cares. Your children are literally traumatized for life right then and there. If if you can literally avoid those situations, if you can find family members who will be willing to take in those children, please make those arrangements up front. If you know that you are in this predicament, do your very best to make the very best of the situation. Not one single situation is going to be ideal, especially if it involves you having to leave your family. But if you know that it is inevitable for you to leave the country, make the arrangement for the rest of your families. Don't leave them in limbo so they can figure out as they go. Do your very best to leave everything where you know you can easily salvage it. That's just my 2 cents out of the whole entire situation on it. As crazy as it is, um, there's always, if you given lemon, if you given lemon, you can crack some lemonade. Given the situation, I'm quite sure that two heads can come out, can come together and find a solution. Isn't it, guys? So, and lastly, I also say that those of you guys who are already in predicament, reach out to us, guys. We have we have a few connection with immigration lawyers who can also help you guys out. And I believe that we have a duty as a community to also help one another, guys. Like I just read you a few minutes ago. Um, you understand the difference between being called a criminal, or being charged for a crime like a felony versus a misdemeanor, and understand the impact that both of those things are going to have towards you. It's very important that you get to know where you stand, especially if you find yourself in this predicament. All right. So, with that in mind, guys, I think I may have covered all the information that I wanted to share with you guys. Unless you have a question, I will just be ready to wrap it up, guys. I will be ready to wrap it up. Um, Someone is asking me how many Nigerians are in the United States illegally right now. Based on the report, there's an estimate. Let me look. Let me look earlier. The Nigerians are estimated to be between 50 to 70,000 in the United States. Between 50 to 70,000 in the United States. And you know, our brothers and sisters from Nigeria, they are definitely a lot. But just because they are a lot, it doesn't also mean that they don't find themselves in these predicaments. Guys, immigration is a real issue, man, to all of us, and it affects families the same. If you're in limbo, if you don't have a status, you are constantly under fear. That fear is real. That fear disrupts families, and it's unfortunate because most of the time, a lot of these families, they don't really know what to do. They don't really know what to do, and they try their best to put, to hold it together. But oftentimes, you end up in separation, especially when ICE finds you, and they've given you plenty of times to to do it yourself. They oftentimes just push the trigger happy finger and you're out, and you're out. But also remember, being outside of the United States is not the end of the world. The same way being outside of any one of the other countries, especially the so-called first world countries, it's not the end of the world, guys. Life still goes on beyond the United States. Life still goes on beyond Canada. Life still goes on beyond the United Kingdom. Life still goes on beyond France, beyond Germany, beyond China, beyond Russia. Don't think that your life, like you die just because you're no longer within any one of these mentioned countries. And I also think that the more we are being disenfranchised as Africans, I think it could actually also force Africans to really do the very best to not just unite, but also to create all the things people go after when you're leaving Africa. Because if you're seeking for the opportunities, and then African themselves create the opportunities, you won't have a reason to leave Africa. You can actually seek out opportunities in other countries. Guys, I am for us destroying these boundaries within Africa. I dream of the day you can come from Cairo all the way to Joburg with no visa in between. I dream of the day you go from Mogadishu all the way to Dakar with visa free, with no visas, meaning you literally cross over all those countries and capitals visa free. It is one of the things that today, as Africans, we ought to really champion, we ought to push forward. Africa, boundaries Africa, boundaries Africa. Those who never leaves their own country will never go anywhere. But above all, guys, these wars, we won't be fighting anymore. There are a whole lot of things that we can get rid of overnight if we didn't have boundaries. Literally, if we did not have boundaries within the African continent, we can get rid of a lot of issues. But we can also solve a lot of situation that we have at hand right now, simply because people have some sort of complex inferiority complex that doesn't allow them to be fully who they are in some region, some specific locations. And so having these boundaries Africa can solve a lot of issues, guys. But one of the biggest I think it can solve is these issues of dictators. The minute an African dictator is downgraded to like a governor or a prefet, guys, we will see a different Africa. When these head of states becomes like governors, they won't be thinking of being in power for their whole entire lives. It is one of the things that I think it pushes Africans dictators to want to become dictators, staying in power for as long as they can stay in power. There will be a day when Africans no longer have to worry about a leader trying to stay in power for 20 years, 30 years. That is so archaic. But during that time, when we can say no, 5 years is good enough, 10 is good. Let somebody is also you help the people. The minute you can easily let go of power, then we will actually have matured. And I dream of that day, guys. I dream of that day. So, guys, and that's it. That's it for the day. I know I've dumped so much on you guys, but one of the biggest things that I want to leave you with is that do not be afraid. Do not be afraid that you are criminal just because you have overstayed your visa. Don't allow yourself to be brutalized by ICE, immigration and custom enforcement. Guys, remember these are federal agents who have rules and regulations also that guides what they do. Even though they may maybe force you to do things you don't want to do, these guys also do things by the book most of the time. Remember, nowadays we have cameras. You got a cell phone in all blocks, of the, of you know of the neighborhoods. They don't like to be recorded doing illegal things. So the majority of the times when they're there, they're gonna come and do it by the books, because right now all of us, we are literally watching. But I also want to encourage you guys, if you see a neighbor in this predicament, guys, take out your cell phone and record it. Record it just so that they don't disappear. Right now, people can disappear because of many reasons. It could be a pretext of immigration issues. Someone who's not a nice enforcer can come in and try to collect you to even up the scores with you. So be sure that those of you who may end up in this predicament, you have actually people who identify themselves, you check out their badges, take their pictures, so that they're not just gonna take you like like you're some piece of animal. It's important that you still know that you still got rights, even though you may not be a United States citizen, even though you may not be a permanent resident. As a foreigner in the United States, you still have rights. So just get to know that, guys. And under these limited rights that you have, make sure that you literally seek to it, that all the rights available to you are literally afforded to you right then and there. Lastly, don't be disrespectful, guys. As a non-citizens, you can easily trigger happy a an agent who's just ready to even up the scores. Not all of them, but there are those agents who are bad apples. You can look at it on social medias, but the majority of them are very professionals. So be courteous to these guys. They're doing their job, even though their job entails separating you and your families. So there's a need. There is a need to really want to I guess find a balance in all these things. So because at the end of the day, all of us want to be with our own families in peace. And I'm quite sure that even those guys who are doing that, they at the end of the day want to make it at home safely. Just like all of us, we want to make it at home safely. If you're deporting me, deport me safely. I don't want to end up dead in your trunk, in the back of your trunk. And then they might say that you have resisted the arrest. So things that we've seen, guys, especially happening towards black people, discriminations and racism. Be aware of those things, guys, because some of you you may forget that you are a guest in this in the United States. Don't misbehave, okay? Don't misbehave. Do the very best that you can. If you are in those predicament, find a lawyer. If you don't have one, ask for one. Don't just be mistreated. But above all, let your family know what is happening to you guys. Let your family know. It's very critical. If you know that you've got a situation like that, do not disappear without anybody knowing what is happening to you. That is very, 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 very critical. So that's it, guys. Thank you so very much. Those of you guys who sent me a whole lot of notes, you have shared a lot of information that I did not share publicly. I'm going to read it, guys. I'm going to read it. I want to remind you that I talked about a lot of categories that people find themselves in. If you are illegal, just like to recap, I try to define what an illegal immigrant is. Some of the main categories people fall into the illegal status, and also what can you do as an illegal person in the United States. The government wants you to to self deport, but if you're still here and you're not ready to leave or you don't want to leave, you gotta be, you gotta bootstrap it. Get ready for some sort of a legal action, some legal battle, and hope that you can find someone who can help you with that. Because in the end of it, if you are illegal, there are things you have to be responsible. You're gonna be answerable to. And when that predicament is out, there will be very few options available for you on the table. So, recapping some of the categories of what's considered illegal status: one, if you have entered the United States without inspection; two, if you have overstayed your visa; three, if you violate any kind of visa regulation. For example, if you engage in, sort of, for example, like if you have a tourist visa and you go and find a job, if they find you, that's a violation of visa, which may immediately become a reason you lose your status. If you have failed asylum, if you're seeking an asylum and you basically your asylum was denied, you definitely are illegal. If you have an expired visa or revoked parolee, if you have an expired status as a parolee or a revoked status to stay in the United States, you are also an illegal. If you are under temporarily protected status, that has very specific time frame or time period, and you expire that particular time period, even though you are under protective, temporarily protective status, you also are considered illegal. But also, if you have engaged into fraudulent entry, like you didn't even come through the port, you got smuggled in the United States by the smugglers. You have no papers whatsoever, but yet you're still in the United States. You are straight out an illegal immigrant in the United States. Those of you who fall under the deportation order of non-compliance, also you are considered illegal, and that is failing to leave after receiving a final removal order from the immigration officer. So they call you oftentimes like you are under deportation order of non-compliance. Those are so far some of the categories that a lot of Africans are falling in. And then also know that overstaying your visa doesn't make you a criminal. It is a misdemeanor, meaning it's not a felony for you to overstay your visa, but it's a misdemeanor. Where they have ways to deal with that. Okay, so in another word, there is a huge difference between unauthorized versus criminal. You are not considered a criminal according to the laws of this land. You are not a criminal because when you're being charged of having committed a felony crime, it is very different. So a crime, a civil violation versus a crime, two different things in the books of the United States are legal booklet. It is important that you guys get to read that so that if someone is accusing you of having committed like you're a criminal because you have overstayed your visa, that's something completely different. It's a civil offense. So according to the immigration, basically they say here, let me actually read it. Not all illegal immigrants commit crimes beyond immigration violation. Entry without inspection is a misdemeanor according to Immigration and Naturalization Act, Section 275. Overstaying a visa isn't a crime, but a civil violation. Remember that. Overstaying a visa is not a crime, but a civil violation. So if you can remember that, so that if someone is literally rocking the boat in your family, charging you to be a criminal, telling them, according to ICE, according to the Immigration and Naturalization Act, Section 275, overstaying a visa is not a crime, but a civil violation. Yes, you can say, yes, I have violated a civil violation code, but have not committed a crime. So, guys, make sure that you understand those two things because it could be a differentiating factor as to whether you get literally mistreated, mishandled, versus someone taking it easy and go through proper channel booking you, if they're gonna book you, or taking you away if they are going to be taking you away. Guys, with that in mind, thank you so very much. Thanks to all of you guys who have texted me, sending you all kinds of text messages, and also those of you who are already going through these difficult times with your families, especially if you have already been separated from your families. Guys, take a good care of yourself. Do your very best to maintain that unity. It is the most critical times that you could be experiencing right now. But even that will come to pass, guys. Even that will come to pass. If you already know that you are in a limbo of potentially being deported, or if you're out of status, look for plan B. Look for any country that can actually take you in, especially if you are not able to go through your native country right away. Because we know, especially in Africa, Africans, they have a lot of situation taking place. If you get a beef with the government or the legal system in your own nation and you're not ready to go, uh, work out plan B. There are other countries that potentially can take you in, but make sure that at the very least, give yourself plenty of time to see whether there are any options on the table. If you do not seek, you do not find. If you do not ask, you don't get no answer. If you don't knock, nobody opens the door. So depending on the situation you are in, also do your own due diligence so that you can potentially find someone who may have been in that predicament, who may know someone who can help you, and who can potentially actually point you in the right direction. All right, guys, with that in mind, I want to end the broadcast here. Thanking so very much those of you guys who have been very helpful in this production, those of you who share with us information, especially places where we got the data. We are super grateful for those of you who helped us with the research, those of you who helped us on the technical side, and those of you who have been sending text messages to us. I'm so grateful, guys. I pray and pray and pray that we do the best to keep it together as families. There's no reason why we should not work out, in tough situation as families, we can keep it together. So I expect and I would hope that we work together as Africans, but also friends of Africa, to get out of this situation, especially these legal predicaments that people are going through. If you have if you have gone through those situations, or if you are going through them, seek out help from those who already have gone through. Uh, Help people find lawyers or some legal representation so that they do not find themselves alone in this situation. All right. Last but not least, let's be human towards one another. Let's be kind to those who are already in this situation. It is not the most ideal situation to be in, but nevertheless, if you're already in this situation, do the best that you can so that you can get out of it. All right. Otherwise, guys, I'm Freeman Singirankabo here at AfriDominion Desk. I want to wish you guys a beautiful evening. Be well. God helps you guys. Those of you in this situation, I hope that you can get out of it, and I pray that you can find some help, some really, really good help. But above all, do your best to keep together, to stay together as a family. Until I see you guys next time, have a beautiful evening. I want to say good night to you all, and I will see you all tomorrow during our regular broadcast. Peace.